It's Thursday, April 24th. I'm Jacob Shamansky with co-host Grant Hardy. You're listening to AMI Today. We're in the climax of election season, and God, I would love it if I had a candidate come knock on my door. I don't even care about the party. Like, it just sounds like it would be such a fascinating interaction, Grant. Like, I wonder what they would be like just in their mannerisms. Like, what's their opening line? Do they prompt you to share your thoughts on the big issues? Like, do they even listen to what you have to say, or they're just like going through the motions? Have you ever had a candidate come to your door, Grant?
You know, I haven't. And my first thought is I might be a little bit perturbed. I mean, for a start, I'm surprised people actually still do that, if they do at all. I also think a lot of Canadians, let's be honest, are decided voters. I knew for months who I was voting for. And I also feel a bit like I would be shouting out into the void. Like, I've got to tell you about this issue that's really important to me. Like, I don't know that they would listen to me. I don't think that's what they're there for. They're there to push the party line. So I think I might just politely say, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, it's true that there's a lot of people that are already decided voters. And what I've heard is that a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll purposely waste candidates' time. If they know that they're not going to vote for them, they'll like, oh, come on in, have a cup of tea, and just waste their time knowing full well they're not going to vote for them, just so that those candidates don't get the chance to canvass other people. That's pretty devious. But Grant, we don't have any time to waste. Let's get to today's AMI Audio Digest. Okay, there were rumblings coming out of Ottawa last week that I just could not believe. But now the Globe and Mail is reporting on them, and we have to talk about it now. Pierre Poilievre is in real danger of losing his own seat in his riding of Ottawa-Carleton. Corinne Van Dusen is the host of the Globe and Mail today on AMI Audio. She's joining us from Toronto. And Corinne, how does this article make the case that Ottawa-Carleton really is in play?
Well, the article is titled, Poilievre may lose his Ottawa area riding as Liberals poised to sweep the region. It's by Robert Fife. And, pardon me, sorry about that. Get choked up, I guess. No.
He choked up with emotion.
So they talked to 2 federal sources and 2 provincial conservative sources. So he's at risk of losing his Ottawa area riding, according to those 4 sources. So the party scrambles to send in volunteers to save the seat that he's actually held since 2004. So he's held that for a long, long time. He didn't win it by much in the last 2 elections, though. It was in the 50% mark. So it's not landslides that he is securing this riding, but party headquarters for the past 2 weeks have been sending workers into Mr. Poilievre's riding, including experienced campaigners who would normally be assigned to tight races across the country, the 4 sources told the Globe. So they're not identifying the conservative sources, 2 of whom are from the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party, because they're not authorized to discuss the campaign or internal polling. So the troops are on the ground, boots are on the ground, as they say, to get out there and spread the word. And, the rumor mill is running. He is close with the Liberal candidate in the Carleton area. His name is Bruce Vanjoy. So they are pretty much neck and neck there. And I just found the numbers for 2021. The Poilievre won with 52% and 46% in 2019. So again, these poll numbers, as we've talked about before, they do say something. They take a snapshot. So as of right now, this is happening, but we don't know what's going to happen on the 28th. But it is interesting that the Globe talked to 4 sources that said, people are really getting out there to remind everyone that this has been Poilievre's riding for a while.
Grant, I know that you had some pretty strong thoughts about this.
I think it's really time for the Conservative Party to elect a new leader. We've had the article actually kind of touches on this a little bit, talking about the fact that losing his riding, Pierre Poilievre's fortunes have really turned in the last, maybe 4 months or so, with him being the clear contender for prime minister back at the end of last year. And this is something that I think the party is going to have to really go back and do some soul searching on. Although, as you told me, Jacob, before the show, it is not over until it's over. Anything could happen.
Even if it's not over, Poilievre had a 20% lead, like across the country. And for him to be at this point where he actually has his writing in play, that's a huge story in and of itself, isn't it, Corinne?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. They talked to actually former Conservative Senator leader Marjorie Le Breton, and she has served for a lot of Conservative prime ministers and cabinet places, and she says Mr. Poilievre can't survive as leader if he loses the federal election. If Pierre gets the same results as we had under Aaron O'Toole and Andrew Scheer, and he loses his riding as well, quote, all hell will break loose. The party will fracture. It's a sad day for the party that this has happened.
So Peter, Bruce Fanjoy, the Ottawa Citizen reported on him last week, and they were saying that he has a staff of over 100 volunteers working for him right now, and they raised over $160,000, and that was as of last week, which is an incredible number for an individual writing politician. That's incredible, and he's been slowly campaigning since 2023. He's been organized for a long time. It's not that bonkers to think that he could actually win this. That said, it is effectively tied. It's a toss-up, which would be a disaster if Pierre Poilievre lost this. If I had to put my money on it, Poilievre is winning this. Come on. He still has almost 40% of the country strongly supporting him, and you can't deny that he has a lot of energy behind him. Unbelievable story. Corinne, thank you so much for your time. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on that story. That was Corinne Van Dusen. She's the host of the Globe and Mail today on AMI Audio. That show is at 10 a.m. Eastern and repeats every 6 hours. She was joining us from Toronto.
Definitely energy. One could argue about what that energy portrays, but it's definitely energy. Just a reminder that we still have energy for our AMI research panel. You can join us and share your thoughts on anything at the company, particularly media and accessibility. And to get going on that, our website is ami.ca/panel. That's the place to be. And as always, we would love to hear from you.
This is a great opportunity to make a couple bucks for anyone who's a regular listener to AMI audio podcasts. And Grant, speaking of AMI audio podcasts, we have access to advanced analytics for our shows. And one thing that always surprises me is how many of our listeners get our podcasts through specialized accessible hardware like the Victor Reader Stream. For AMI Audiobook Review, it's over 20% of our listeners. And recently, one of HumanWare's specialized devices got a new update that lets users download podcasts and audiobooks. And that's what the guys on Double Tap were talking about a little earlier on the channel today. Stephen Scott is the host on that one. He's connecting from Glasgow, Scotland. How's it going, Stephen?
Hey, guys. Good to chat as always.
So the question is, with the Victor Reader Stream, sorry, not the Victor Reader Stream. This device from HumanWare,
I think it is
the Stellar Trek. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. What does it do that our apps can't do? We were talking about this before the show, and Grant and I were both kind of scratching our heads. So please help us, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, this is a navigation device. Imagine someone took Google Maps or Apple Maps and put it into a physical device. That is essentially what the Stellar Trek is. It is a device which has physical buttons on it for navigational purposes, so you can navigate around menus, which you can listen to, spoken aloud menus. You can connect an earbud to this, and and an old-fashioned 3.5mm headphone jack you can plug in there, and you can hear directions to wherever you want to go. You can find a cafe, you can find a business. As you walk, you can also hear about locations around you. You can also get directed to a location, and it has some cool features as well. Thanks to cameras built into the back of the device, which a lot of people don't realize. There are cameras built into the back that allow for, once you arrive at a location, that last 10 yards problem we always talk about. Where's the door? How do I get in?
Oh, cool.
Well, the cameras can actually detect the door. And according to an interview I've just finished that is going to be airing next week on the show, our listener, Aaron Linson, told us that he thinks that the door detection is even better than that on Apple's iPhone top-end models. So, you know, that kind of functionality is in there. The cameras do other things as well, like allow you to read documents, read menus. You can have essentially staged text. So what I mean by that is, say you read a menu, it will scan the menu and it will put it into chunks of text for you. So you can just navigate through. And if you want to listen to something again, you can listen to it again, rather than just being given a whole lot of information at once, that if you get a notification on your phone and suddenly that interrupts the flow of speech, you lose all that. Well, with this, you can just literally click left or click right and go back through it. And it has some other cool stuff in there, like bus stop identification. And, they've also added in pedestrian mode as well. So crossing roads, you can get information about crossing the road. And even now, it's just going to beta this cool feature that appeared last week. You can get a traffic light detection as well, similar to the Oko app we've talked about, all in one device.
Yeah. So I've used smartphones with GPS since about 2008, and I've been so excited waiting for these accessible devices to be obsolete or not needed anymore, and we've never really gotten there. Like, I don't know about you, Stephen, but I feel like smartphone GPS has never been nearly as accessible as these dedicated accessibility devices like the tracker. Smartphones don't usually store maps locally, so you need an internet connection. Doesn't usually give as much detail on those intersections, and it's just not as convenient or efficient to carry around and use. So that's what makes me really excited that a really serious navigation user, Stephen, if you can afford it, I think these accessible devices can be really beneficial.
They can. And look, I'm going to get a proper review of it very soon, so I will come back and tell you my full thoughts on it once I've had that time. But what I will say is, I think it comes down to something very simple, actually, which is the blinder I've gotten, the more I'm relying on these specialist devices to do the job, because I feel like they're built for me. They're built for my needs. I'm not getting extraneous information or things I don't need and driving directions. I mean, I know it's a silly thing, but ultimately I don't care about any of that. Strip all that away. I don't want any of that. I want this to be purely for me, designed for me, and I can use it confidently, knowing that it will work for me. In addition to that, if you're using GPS and you're out and about all the time, you are sucking the life out of that battery on your smartphone constantly. Now, what happens if you lose battery and you've got your smartphone with you and you're not home for another couple of hours? That could be the difference between catastrophe and hoping there's someone nearby who can help you, because you'd have to go charge your phone. That loses access to perhaps your travel pass, your bank card, your Uber opportunity, whatever it might be. So having a separate device is actually a really smart thing to do, actually, because then you've got the ability to spread the load, share the load, if you like, on the batteries between the devices. That's one, or actually two reasons why I'm really intrigued by it, because I just love the idea of this device, A, being for me, but also not meaning I'm fully dependent on the smartphone.
Right. Are we adding the Stella Trek to the blind uniform officially? Is this your endorsement?
Possibly, yes. Well, I'll tell you in a couple of months when I've had a full play of it. I am intrigued by this. And it's the same with the Victor Reader. Again, years ago, wouldn't have touched it. Wouldn't have been interested. I thought, what, smartphone can do everything. But the thing is, yes, the smartphone can do everything, but there's an efficiency. There is a comfort in having a physical touchpad on a device to do that with. And I think that's why the Victor Reader has been so popular. And I think that's why the Stella Trek is growing in popularity. Now, cost-wise, you're talking over $1,200 Canadian. It's a lot of money, right? It's a lot of cash. But the way I look at it is this. With that LiDAR functionality built in, you could buy yourself a cheaper iPhone next year and get one of these, and you're probably spending the same money. So you get both devices, same cost, and arguably more dependability. Long-term, and how, into 5 years' time, whether or not this will still be a device people will use, I don't know. because things are moving
Yeah.
so quickly. But today,
Long term,
I think they're good. I think it's a worthy investment.
yeah, long term is always the big challenge with devices being obsolete very quickly. But I'm very intrigued about AI or whatever it uses detection for traffic lights. I don't think people should rely on it like you should know how to cross the street, but for those difficult spots where you happen to be going home 11 o'clock at night and there's no traffic, or you have a tricky sort of advanced turn signal, I'm really excited about how this technology can, I mean, at the end of the day, give us like the same or similar information that a sighted person has. That's going to be really cool
Absolutely.
to have something that, you know what, I feel like I'm entitled to it. So if I can get it, that's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Jacob, any
Steven?
thoughts?
Only thoughts are Steven, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thoughts on time's up.
Yeah, those are my thoughts.
Nice,
have
guys.
a good
Have a
one,
great
man.
day.
Always appreciate it. That was Steven Scott. He's a host on Double Tap, AMI's very popular accessible tech show. It airs at noon Eastern and repeats every 6 hours. I didn't want to be rude, but yeah, time's up, Steven.
Hey, those are good thoughts. Jacob, in an alternative world that's simpler, I feel like Signal Gate could be a good name for GPS technology. It uses a special signal gate to transport the signal. I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyways, that's not actually what Signal Gate means now, as we'll find out in the Washington Post, first airing at 11 a.m. Eastern on AMI Audio. It does repeat every 6 hours and is hosted by the one and only Mike Ross. And one of the articles he's going to be reading today, the title is Hegseth had Signal Messaging app installed on an office computer. So we all know what Signal Gate was. He shared classified information with a large group of people on Signal, including his lawyer, his brother, about his administration's assault on the Iran-backed militants in Yemen. It actually divulged when the strike would occur, what types of aircraft and weapons were going to be employed, and when U.S. service members would be in harm's way. So that's Signal Gate. It turns out that Signal was approved in 2023 for certain communications by the Biden administration. Definitely not for classified information, though. Anyway, it turns out that Hegseth has come up with a brilliant way to avoid the crappy cell phone reception in his office. As Washington Post reports, sources are saying that he actually installed the Signal app on his office computer to communicate with his cell phone, and has explored installing a conventional text messaging app on there too, which would work with his computer. It's unclear whether messages are being kept, like saved in accordance with, government policies on the matter. It is totally unclear that this is legal or appropriate to set up that communication channel with your personal cell phone. I mean, guess you do what you got to do, right? If you can't get reception. No, I'm just kidding. And this is one interesting quote I wanted to share from the article. Admiral William McRaven, he's a retired Navy SEAL officer who oversaw the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. And he said in a CNN interview that Hegseth needs to accept responsibility on for his mistakes and lean more heavily on military officers and other defense officials who are, quote, trustworthy, to tell him things he doesn't want to hear or doesn't know. He says that's the mark of a really good person in the job. We kind of talked about this yesterday. Know what you don't know and don't be afraid to take responsibility, accept help, Jacob, instead of doubling down on a mistake.
If you're going to be, controlling the stirrups on top of a giant beast, you better show that beast some respect. Otherwise, it's going to toss you off. I don't think Hegseth is showing the U.S. military the respect that it deserves, because he's essentially at the helm of it, just below Trump himself, right? And spare a moment for the IT department at the Pentagon. Imagine that moment when he called up the IT guy. Hey, can you install this Signal app for me? Sir, I don't think that's a very good. Just do it, kiddo. And then suddenly he's in the news. Could you
Yeah,
imagine?
I kind of feel like I might actually get more pushback from AMI from our company's IT department. Like, oh, can I use this app to communicate
honestly,
with my?
I think we're more secure
Like,
than the Pentagon here.
yeah, no, I kind of do too. Anyways, that's the Washington Post. That's going to be at was already at 11 a.m. Eastern and repeats every 6 hours on AMI Audio. Should be an interesting article, especially read by Mike Ross. Kelly MacDonald is coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern on Kelly and Company. And Kelly, I wanted to ask you this question. We know that the Pentagon is pretty disorganized lately. What's also disorganized is my kitchen. And my system basically involves shoving things into random spots. And I seem to actually sometimes maybe remember where I put most things. But Kelly, it doesn't sound like it's as efficient as it could be. And you guys are going to help us with that today on the program.
Yes, sir. We can help starting at 2 today. Too much stuff, nowhere to put it. It's almost like a commercial, right? Mary Mamalady shares 5 steps to get your kitchen back in order. So if your kitchen feels like more cluttered than functional, you are not alone. Q&A expert Mary Mamalady is with us with 5 simple steps, Grant, that will bring back order and flow into that kitchen. You game?
So, oh, sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
Oh, I just said you game? You all set?
Yeah, so I wondered if we wanted to chat about that a little bit. How do you two feel? Maybe we'll start with Kelly about just your home, specifically your kitchen in general. Like, do you feel like you have this completely haphazard way of like, I'm gonna have to search through all my cupboards for my olive oil, or do you feel like you're doing a little better than me? Could we use the information today? I definitely feel like I could.
Yeah. I mean, I think you always can, right? Like, I personally feel that everybody has their way of trying to navigate their kitchen, but I almost feel like there's a strange combination to every kitchen to make it settle in, everything find its place. But if you're a person that wants to have tons of gadgets, you got to figure out what you're doing with them. You got to accept you're going to have to, hey, this weekend I'm working with this, I'm going to do this, and maybe make meals connected with that. So you bring it out and have that space on the counter where it parks. Some things you're going to be used every day and keep them in there. So I think for myself, as a big guy, I just want the right size kitchen, and I'm happy with the size of my kitchen. But I know if there were multiple people in there doing something, trying to put something together for a gathering or just getting stuff, you start whoa. But to work on one's own, I think it's pretty good. I mean, don't get me wrong. You look underneath the microwave. What the hell? All this stuff. What the heck kind of order is this? But for the most part, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied. I think the area that's the worst is I have too much silverware.
Right. Specialized gadgets in the kitchen can add up so fast. When was the last time you used a meat tenderizer? Probably never. Do you really need a garlic press? Probably not.
Oh,
right.
God.
Do you need an egg slicer? Get that thing out of there. Now, all that stuff is going to make it so much harder for you to find it. I can't wait to hear what Mary has to say because she's a professional chef. She probably has some great tips. I feel
and I think
about this.
Jacob. And I think, Jacob, some of it too is if you really don't use something, why would you have it there or take it out of the room? Or because you're going to have your things that have to stay in there. Maybe you do use the garlic press because you're a huge garlic fan and everything you make, I've got to have garlic, fresh crushed garlic in it. And that's fine, but have it space in there and you're off to the races.
Or just get like garlic paste. I hate cleaning those garlic presses too. Or like minced ginger. You can get all that stuff. It's so much easier than just a garlic press. Just to not have that thing in my drawer is a win. They're just the worst to clean too. But I have a couple tips that I cook a lot, and these have been so helpful for me. Salt. Get a container that you can open the salt with one hand. Because if you're cooking, you're almost always going to have one hand that's wet, and you can't pinch salt if your hand is wet. And if you can open it with one hand, it means you can totally just happily have one hand wet from, I don't know, because you're constantly rinsing your hands when you're cooking in blind, right? So one, they can open it with a single hand and pinch it out of it. The other thing is have the cooking tools you need when you're like at the stovetop right next to your stovetop at all times. If you crack like an egg into a pan and then you start looking for your spatula, oh, congratulations. Now your eggs are messed up because you've been like looking for your spatula. No,
That's
have the
right.
spatula ready to go and identify those tools that you do use on top of the stovetop.
Yeah,
And this
100%.
next tip is more to keep your spices organized. If you're putting a spice mix in a recipe, combine all the spices in a little bowl before putting in the recipe, because if you put them on one at a time, you're going to keep getting your fingers dirty. It's going to be super
And
slow,
no
and you might
concept.
burn something.
Yeah. No concept of what you're putting on there. Like how much, because once you get one on, you got to be pretty good. You can detect differences in grains to an extent, but come on, you're going to, I
Yeah.
wonder, and over season something.
Exactly.
Really?
Put all your spices in a little bowl on the side.
Yeah.
Sorry, Grant, do you have any?
Prep it.
No, I'm the guy that I basically like. I came from the dorm. I threw all my dishes and stuff like into a box. I like put them like away in my new place, and I'm still trying to figure out where they are. My mom
I
is
wonder
trying
where
to
that
help
box
me.
is. Oh, Grant.
Give me
Hey,
some
Grant, the
advice.
better idea is like Jacob said, buy all the stuff that you need, mince this, what's that, freeze it. Hopefully you have enough space in your freezer, which I guess is the hold, and then either just have mom bring the stuff already made over.
Right. What else is coming up on the show, Kel?
We're just going to talk a little bit about a play that was in Toronto at Theatre Passe Muraille. This was from the 2nd to the 19th. The Little Prince is what we're talking about. It's the world premiere of it, and it's a very physical theater adaptation led by visionary deaf artist and storyteller Landon Kretz. So we're going to talk about the experience as it reimagines the play itself and the real love of this tale through physical theater. And it's going to be fun, and we have a couple of guests on to talk about it.
Theatre Passe Muraille is such a cool little theater. I went there a couple months ago to go see a show. It's so pleasant. It's like quaint. I don't know how else to describe it. Kelly, thank you so much. Kelly and Company is coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern. Good luck on that, eh?
Thanks, guys. Take it easy. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Of course. That was Kelly MacDonald. He's the host of Kelly and Company on AMI Audio. It is at 2 p.m. Eastern, but it also repeats every 6 hours on the channel. It's available as a podcast, and that includes YouTube. Grant, that's all the time I have today, but I'm handing it over to you for the pulse. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Coming up in just a second, Heather Feather, award-winning children's musician and accessibility advocate with MS, talks about her new single called Happy For You, encouraging kids to be joyful for other kids, not just when they come out on top. Really interesting conversation that's coming up in just a sec if you're listening on AMI Audio, or search up The Pulse on YouTube. Thanks so much for listening to the AMI Audio Digest.